It's important not to start gear too early or perhaps ever at all. And both of those two are going to be related, and that's what we're talking about today. Guys, we've seen a massive rise more in the last probably year or two, especially with TikTok, in gear usage and promotion and talking about it. And while that has its perks in that people are more informed on the topic and safer on the topic, we've also seen a huge rise in people that are just starting in the gym or people that are incredibly young, like teenagers that are contemplating starting using PEDs or performance enhancers, right? And there's the issue of starting that too early. And I myself been coaching for a little while now. I get DMs pretty frequently from people in high school, people in their young 20s who are asking if it's too early or if it's time for them to hop on the sauce. And so today I'm going to go over exactly what you need to be aware of before you even start to contemplate making that decision, as well as some of the risks and potential side effects that you need to be conscious of. So let's go ahead and get into it. As we start here, the rise of this popularity in gear, just the general talking about it, right, is just kind of rise in bodybuilding as a whole. And what's coming out of that is a lot of younger people or people that just start the gym wanting to hop on gear because they think that's the only way to get big, right? And they think that if they need to start or if they have big aspirations that they need to start now. And that's just simply not the case, right? Let me break it down for you in the most simple way possible. You only have so much that you can put on muscle wise while enhanced. Okay? I'll repeat that again. You can only put on so much muscle enhanced. All right? Before you reach a limit where you're having to take an ungodly amount, because that needs to go up essentially every single time that you continue to put on more and more mass. So you want to achieve as much as naturally possible first. Here is when I first started working out. Okay, I was 120 pounds. I was 5'9", 120 pounds. The issue was not a lack of gear or a lack of anything other than just not eating enough, right? So there's me here at 120 pounds. Here is me now at about 195 pounds. So this is probably, that's what, 75 pounds bigger of mostly muscle that I've managed to put on. And I need to get even bigger than that as I'm getting competitive here. Even in men's physique, someone my size, I'm looking at probably 210 before I start cutting down for my show. That's the goal by the end of June is 210. So this needs to get another 15 pounds on top of that. Or if we're looking at it from our baseline, that's about another 95 pounds from our baseline. If you're the skinny guy like I was at the beginning of this picture, it's 95 pounds. And that's men's physique. If we're talking classic, we need another 15 or 20 pounds on top of that. So we're talking 100 to 120 pounds beyond our baseline weight. You cannot put on 100 to 120 pounds enhanced without running absolutely ridiculous, life-threatening cycles. This is why I say the importance of not hopping on too early or too early in your journey is if you start, you're then going to have to up dosages every cycle. And you're only going to put on, let's say, your first cycle, 15 pounds. Okay? 15 pounds of muscle. The next one, you have to up a little bit, 15 more pounds of muscle. The next one, 15 more pounds of muscle. Now you got to start introducing things like insulin, HGH, because you've already started to get your numbers up pretty high. Then you run another one. You run another one. You're now 5 or 6 in, maybe putting on 15 pounds of muscle every time. That could even be a little bit generous, right? But you're 5 or 6 in, you're like 80 pounds up. And as we just discussed, you need to be 100 to 120 pounds up, man. 100 to 120 pounds. So you're already kind of hit the limit of your cycles there, and you're only 80 pounds up. The other issue that we run into is just the fact of it being a fad, man. I mean, are you going to consistently still want to do this in 2 or 3 years? A lot of people don't. I can tell you right now, a lot of people that I worked out with in college do not still work out today. I'm 28, been out of college for 6 years. A lot of people that I worked out with in college do not work out today, probably like 90% of them that were super into fitness in college. That means 90% of these people that are super into fitness and want to hop on some sort of sauce are not going to want to do it in 3 or 4 years. They're not going to be that into it. You might not be that into it, guys. And then you've already drastically messed up your hormones that could potentially never return to the same normal. And for what? For something you were interested in a couple years? So, my recommendation for 2 reasons is to make sure that you're doing this for at least 2 or 3 years and make sure you've been able to put on at least 30 pounds, at least 30 to 50 pounds before you consider any sort of enhancement process beyond that. Because one, you'll make sure that this is probably something you want to do long term. And two, you are pushing your potential even higher because you're pushing that natural gains at the beginning where you can put on a ton of muscle. Your first 2 or 3 years, you can put on a ton of muscle, guys. And I've got all kinds of videos on that. Like, subscribe, check out the rest of my videos. But those first 2 or 3 years, you should be able to be putting on tons of muscle on your own. If you are not putting on tons of muscle, you're not training right or you're not eating well enough. It's that simple. But push it off for at least 2 or 3 years, at least 30 to 40 pounds. So you're not capping out that excess amount. If you are that 19-year-old skinny kid, if you're that 19-year-old skinny kid, you will run into this issue where you look mid AF and you've already pushed dosages incredibly high. Okay, it's just not worth that. If you guys have any follow-up questions, subscribe to the channel, putting out tons of free content every single week. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'd be happy to help you out, or drop a comment here. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe. Get big.